Welcome to the We Are Life podcast, a space for those who feel everything connected to Mama Earth, Spirit, Sun, Moon, and Stars. A place to reconnect and to slow down and remember what it feels like to fully be alive. I am Jenna, and today we are talking about hearing loss and getting into sound healing. It's not something I talk about often, but I am really excited to kind of get into it and to speak about it fully for the first time. Get cozy, take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and let's get into it. I finally made it outside. I've been wanting to record an episode outside. This is how I wanted to start the podcast off, but it's so hot where I live and I'm sweating right now, but we're just going to deal with it because the sun is setting, the sun is not out, and I'm next to the river. There's dragonflies, hummingbirds, literally everywhere right now, and there's no place I would rather be. There's also red ants everywhere. It's really funny because I chose the spot that I'm sitting because there were no ants, and then all of a sudden they just started swarming, okay? But I just spoke to Mama Earth and said, please, this is my space. Do not let the ants get on my blanket. I know I'm in their home, so they can do what they want just for a little bit. Just go around me for a minute, please. A minute ago, there was a hummingbird flying around and so many birds. Oh my gosh, the wind is picking up, like the energy is here. If the wind is kind of in the background, I apologize. We're just going to have to make it work because there's no place else I would rather be right now. I brought my journal with me because this episode is something that I wanted to not get it right, but I just wanted to make my points clear because it's not something I take lightly and it's not something that I really talk about often. So I feel like maybe if you are in my close circle, you probably know that I am deaf in my left ear. I lost my hearing at a really young age. I believe I was like 9 or 10 that we know of. It's not really known if I was born with it, though we don't think that that's the case. I believe, and my parents believe, that it was when I was sick because at a young age I got really high temperatures, and at one point it got to like 108 degrees, and so I was hospitalized, did all of the things that was needed at the time. And after that, I think my parents started noticing I couldn't hear when they would speak on this side, or if I got the phone, I would always switch it to my right side. How they really found out, though, was I believe my dad started seeing it and he kept testing it in ways because he didn't know if it was just a thing that I chose. I was really young, so it wasn't something that they were for sure about. But come to find out, my elementary school did a hearing test and they gave me a paper to give back to my parents because they gave me a hearing test while I was there, and they told me, you need to go get your hearing checked, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm 8 or 9 years old, right? I'm not going to go and tell my parents this because I don't think it's that big of a deal. My normal is my normal. I don't think I have hearing loss at that age, And so I never told them, I'm just a little girl, okay? And they never contacted my parents or anything. It's a very interesting sitch that happened. And so then my dad started noticing I'm not answering the phone on that side. If he gives me it, he tries to put it up to my left ear and I switch it to my right, all of these things. And so they decided to get me a hearing test, and lo and behold, I was 90% deaf in my left ear and 10% deaf in my right ear. And now this is my normal. This is, to me, I never really wanted to admit that I was deaf because that's all I knew. I didn't feel that way. And at that age, I don't think I really wanted to admit it because for some reason it was really weird to me. As a young girl, you think only old people lose their hearing. You don't hear about it a lot. And so I ended up getting a hearing aid, and I wanted to hide it from everyone. I got the color that was the closest to my skin color. I wanted to have my hair down. I didn't want anyone to know that I was deaf. I wouldn't wear it during soccer because my hair was pulled up, all of these things. I was just really embarrassed about it. And I think that losing my hearing fundamentally changed me as a person, because I know when you're in group settings or you're having conversation with people and you can't hear them, it made me really anxious. It made me feel like I didn't understand people, or I wasn't being understood, or it felt like people were talking about me all the time because I actually couldn't hear them. I took it really hard, and I had all of these stories growing up that I just was never heard. That was a story that I had. I was never heard. And I honestly never brought it back to my hearing loss. I never really acknowledged my hearing loss. I never really wanted to admit that I was deaf, because I think for a long time, admitting it meant something was wrong with me and I was broken and I was missing something that most people had. And honestly, even to this day, I don't talk about it often. I don't really tell people. Like, it's not something that when I meet someone, I go up to them and be like, speak on my right side, like I'm deaf, or I can't hear you, or, these things. It's not the first thing. I didn't make it my identity. I didn't want it to become my identity, because it was just something that I was used to. And honestly, the past few years, I haven't ever wore a hearing aid, because every time I put it in, everything was so loud and overwhelming. When I would go into big groups of people and loud places, it just overwhelmed me so much that I just kind of stopped wearing it. And recently I just got a new one, and I've been trying to be intentional about wearing it, because I would love to have that experience of being able to hear, but at the same time, not wearing my hearing aid is my experience. Not being able to hear is my experience. It has made me such a feeler. And, it's one of those things that you can look at and say it's a blessing and a curse at the same time. But honestly, most of the time, I look at it as a blessing, because I don't think that I would be who I am without my hearing loss. I don't think I would be as energetically in tune with energy and people's feelings and the energy in the room. I don't think that I would be such a feeler if it wasn't for my hearing loss. Because of my hearing loss, I walk into a room and it's not, I don't go to what am I hearing, it's what am I feeling instead. It's made me a very observant person. I honestly don't go to the sounds around me unless I'm really focusing on it. And I really just feel everything. Like, feeling is my hearing. Like I said earlier, I haven't really talked about it much until recently, because I think there's a lot of grief around it. Grief in the fact that I won't have the full experience of being able to breathe my whole entire life. Grief of not knowing if it'll be passed on to my kids. Frustration of being in loud areas and not being able to hear, and just getting really overwhelmed. And there's so many feelings that are really hard to process around hearing loss. But I try not to focus it on it a lot. Because it is an emotional thing, and I think it's something that I do need to look into more and process more, because there's a lot of emotion there. I've never honestly really sat there and been like, why me? Like, why do I have to have hearing loss? Because I look at it as such a gift now. I find it so interesting and very special to be able to feel the way that I feel. And I wouldn't change it for the world. One thing that I find that I'm very lucky to have found is sound healing. Sound healing came into my life at a time where I wasn't really expecting it. I didn't ever think that I would be a sound healer. I found it in a yoga training. I had listened to some sound before, but never in person. During this yoga training at that time in my life, I didn't like teaching yoga, and in that training I told them that. I told my instructor, "Don't ask me to teach yoga because I will not." It was just not what I was being called to in that time. And she was like, "Okay, then what about teaching a sound bath?" And I was terrified. I was so nervous, but I said yes. And in that moment, I knew that something shifted inside of me when I said yes to sound healing. Sound healing is where I heard for the first time fully. I think that it was so overwhelming that I could not even process in that moment what I was even hearing. When I play sound, I hear it louder in my left ear. I feel the vibrations and the frequency so strongly on my deaf side. It was like a whole new world opening up, and it was the most magical thing I have ever experienced. And from that moment on, I was like, this is for me. I am meant to be a sound healer. I just had to take a moment because I don't know if I've ever really said that out loud about how powerful and strong sound healing is, and to be half deaf and to be able to hear something so loudly and to feel it in that way is like so hard to explain. I have no words for it, honestly. I have a lot of emotion and gratitude and presence around that memory. From that moment on, I just knew that that's what I was going to be doing and sharing that gift, because if I could feel it in this one way and it changed my life in this one way, I knew that there were so many other ways that it could change other people's life. There was this one time that I had a group hire me for some sound healing, and they told me and that they had a lady that was fully deaf, and she was just all sign language. And I told them, I don't know sign language, but I am half deaf, and I don't know how her experience will be being fully deaf, but I would absolutely love for her to just come and experience a sound bath and to just be there and present. And so we did that. We set up a little teleprompter so she could see what I was saying, and eventually she ended up closing her eyes. And I remember looking at her and she smiled. And in that moment, I knew that in some way she was experiencing a sound bath. And after I finished, she typed up on her phone, "I heard it." Now imagine my shock when she told me that. She pointed to the bowls of what she heard. She said that it was so loud. And for somebody that was fully deaf to have heard the sound bowls, like, I couldn't even imagine that feeling. But then at the same time, I go back to that feeling of when I heard it louder in my left ear, and it being the most beautiful feeling that I have ever experienced. And I just want everyone to feel that feeling and to experience something like that. It was just such a special moment for me, and it was something that I will never, ever, ever forget. Also, another funny thing that I do when I'm going to sleep, okay, this is honestly the best thing ever. When I'm going to sleep, I lay on my right side. So I just lay right here on my right. And I can't hear a thing, okay? My alarms, can't really hear them. When my boyfriend's snoring, can't really hear it. It's honestly the best thing ever for sleeping when you can't hear. And honestly, there's so many things that I could say and point out that I hate about it, but it's not something that I can change. And so I've honestly come to love it, and I've come to cherish, and I've just come to appreciate how I can feel and how I can connect with people's energy before even hearing their voice. It's one of my favorite parts of being alive. Thank you for being here for this conversation with me. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it, save it, send it to a friend. Until next time, keep choosing yourself and following what lights you up, and never forget that you are alive.